Alright, now we're live. There we go. Alright. Good morning and welcome to ElementYou, the online worship community of Element Church. Today I have with me Mom, Dad, Ken, and Dana.
Ken and Dana.
Yeah, there we go.
Welcome, Ken.
Either way.
We'll just switch this up real quick. Ken and Dana.
Yes.
So, thank you.
No problem.
So we are in Acts 21 today. So, and I'm getting
Notification.
looks like Mr. Murray is broadcasting the worship service of Element live as well. So cool. We're in Acts 21. Let's go ahead and open up in prayer, Jojo. So I'm going to get you to do that too. You just get all the responsibility today. It's awesome.
Dear Jesus, thank you for this day. Thank you for all that you've given us, and please help us to obey you, Lord. Thank you for allowing us to all be here and read your word today, and just please allow us to be able to share this with others and to bring people to you, and allow us to share you throughout everything we do and to bring honor and glory to you throughout our lives. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. So let's just jump right in. Acts chapter number 21. Let's go, I don't know, let's do the first 14 verses.
Okay.
And we'll see how we go from there.
All right. Now it came to pass that when we had departed from them and set sail, running a straight course, we came to Kos the following day to Rhodes, and from there to Patara. And finding a ship sailing over to Phoenicia, we went aboard and set sail. When we had sighted Cyprus, we passed it on the left, sailed to Syria, and landed at Tyre. For there the ship was to unload her cargo. And finding disciples, we stayed there 7 days. They told Paul through the Spirit not to go up to Jerusalem. When we had come to the end of those days, we departed and went our way. And they all accompanied us with wives and children till we were out of the city. And we knelt down on the shore and prayed. When we had taken our leave of one another, we boarded the ship, and they returned home. And when we had finished our voyage from Tyre, we came to Ptolemais, greeted the brethren, and stayed with them 1 day. On the next day, we, who were Paul's companions, departed and came to Caesarea, and entered the house of Philip, the evangelist, who was one of the 7, and stayed with him. Now this man had 4 virgin daughters who prophesied. And as we stayed many days, a certain prophet named Agabus came down from Judea. When he had come to us, he took Paul's belt, bound his own hands and feet, and said, "Thus says the Holy Spirit, so shall the Jews at Jerusalem bind the man who owns this belt, and deliver him into the hands of the Gentiles." Now when we heard these things, both we and those from that place pleaded with him not to go up to Jerusalem. Then Paul answered, "What do you mean by weeping and breaking my heart? For I am ready not only to be bound, but also to die at Jerusalem for the name of the Lord Jesus." So when he would not be persuaded, we ceased, saying, "The will of the Lord be done."
All right, so we actually kind of got ahead of ourselves a little bit last week in talking about this precise subject matter. So what we've got here is God continually revealing to Paul what's going to happen. Even giving him a warning, hey, just be aware. If you're not willing to, don't go here, right? This is it's Paul famously spent a significant portion of his life and ministry in prison. And one of the really interesting things here is that it ultimately seems to be by choice, because it's not that he was caught unexpectedly here and placed into prison. And I don't want to get too far ahead, because we will see his actual arrest and the events of how God's going to use his life while he is in bondage here. But why is it, do you guys think, that God keeps warning him if God in his foreknowledge knows that he's going to go anyway? What purpose does it serve? I mean, is God kind of saying, okay, don't do this, and then Paul's going, well, I'm going to do it, and then God says, fine, if you're going to do it, just be, or what he actually is going on here? Because I could definitely see where somebody reading this might question, why is Paul going against God's will? What's God doing here? What's going on?
I don't think the warnings are really for Paul, because
Okay.
Paul knows. He's been told before, you go, you're gonna be bound, and then you're gonna die. And Paul's, he's well aware of this. I feel like this is for the people who travel with Paul and who are watching him, I mean, how far should you go in your faith? What all should you be willing to give up? Because, you can give up your stuff and everything, but, Paul is showing that, why are you weeping and, breaking my heart over this? I know that I'm going to die, but I'm doing it in the name of Jesus, and that's all that matters. I think this is a way to show that, you should be willing to go all in and do anything, even if that means, you die.
Nice shirt.
Yeah.
By the way.
Same with you, man.
Right.
That's
Awesome. So
I think it's to prepare Paul.
Yes.
So, we actually have, similar to this, it happens today. There are places in this world that if you go and you say, Jesus loves you, they will kill you. People still go because God tells them to. And so I think this is a preparation for Paul. Like Joseph was talking about, preparing the people around him, Paul knows, and he's going to say, we'll get there, but he's going to be content no matter what. And so what he's got now is not what he's getting ready to have. I think God is preparing him to be in bondage. I think God is, Paul is an educated man. He's a traveling man. How many places did he go just right here? He is here, there, everywhere. He is a traveling, educated people person. Okay, Paul, just so you know, you're getting ready to not be. You're getting ready to be in bondage. And, I'm an outdoorsy person. If somebody says, okay, just so you know, you're getting ready to never to be able to do that again, I think God's preparing his mind and heart.
Well, and I'm, oddly enough, I'm going to read you, since Joseph and I are both matching shirts, I'm actually going to read you some song lyrics right here, because I think we were in agreement. We went and saw Toby Mac Friday night, and this was probably the best performed song of the whole evening. The whole show was amazing.
Yeah,
right. The whole show was, but there was a couple of songs that just really stuck out. And I think you said this was probably your favorite song performance of the night. And these are the lyrics. The name of the song is "Till the Day I Die," right? And it says, "Till the wheels fall off, till the spotlight fades, I will lift your banner high. I will lift your banner high, until the walls crash in. For the rest of my days, I'll lay it all on the line, until the day I die." Right? And it's an amazing song in of itself, but I think that idea, that concept, really sums up Paul's life motto, if you will. When he says here, "He's breaking my heart for, I'm not only ready to be in prison, I'm ready to die." Paul recognizes the value of his life. Paul recognizes that his value doesn't come in his ability to stay alive, but his ability to serve Christ, even if it means dying to do so. And that's really where the strength of Paul's ministry comes, is here is a man who is absolutely sold out to serving Christ and to utter obedience and commitment to the will of God. And I think it serves as a fine example for what we should do and what we should be. How can we best be used by God? By willing to lose everything, if it means that God is glorified.
Yeah, well, Joseph makes a good point, because they're obviously torn up about it. They are his people with him. They have traveled together, but Paul is setting an example. And Paul's saying, look, he's not just saying, do as I say, not as I do. He's saying, do as I do.
Right.
Follow, and he said before, follow me as I follow Christ.
That's a bold statement.
Yeah,
and it makes a lot of sense. So the first part of his ministry was showing people that you spread it. And the second part of his ministry was showing that your location doesn't matter. You continue in doing this. Mm-hmm. So, and what was going to happen to what was going to happen to everybody too, when Christ himself was telling them, you're going to suffer for my name's sake. And
He told him that when he first called him,
mm-hmm.
right? I mean, when he was still blind, he sends word to Paul, go and show him that I have called him as a chosen vessel, and he's going to carry my name to the Gentiles, and he's going to suffer many things from me. And that was literally part of his salvation experience, was God revealing, I've saved you for this purpose.
Which is maybe why Paul was still so intent on going, knowing that was going to happen. Because God told him right there at the beginning.
I'm not sure what Charity's doing over
Tell him
there.
to lean in. He keeps leaning
just-
out of frame.
It's okay. Move the camera if you need to.
Yeah, it's okay.
Don't
we
want to
don't
move it
mind.
while it's filming. Looks jittery.
Switch cameras and then move the
There
one
you
that's
go.
not filming.
Ooh.
Right? Boom.
But then you can't see Ken and Dana.
Boom.
It's
Hang
okay.
on, hang on.
It's all right. We're good.
It's quite okay.
All right. So, in response to what Paul said, when he finally says, "Look, this is how it's going to be. I'm committed." Since he would not be persuaded, we ceased and said, "Let the will of the Lord be done." Which kind of is almost like they recognize that Paul is in God's will, right? Okay, we know that you're. Wow.
That did not
That was
work
an
at all.
epic fail in
Try not to get the camera
cinematography.
in, but it's
There.
not working today.
And she's gingerly moving the laptop and then gingerly dragging the camera. It's just like, wow.
We've got our own special effects.
That's right.
There we go.
Man, if we should have done earthquake cam. Dun, dun, dun.
Star Trek
Half go
camera.
left, half go right.
That's right.
No, just one person goes the other way.
Oh, okay.
So, 15 and 16, after these days, as soon as it's over, they said, let God's will be done. After these days, we got ready and went up to Jerusalem. And some of the disciples some of the disciples from Caesarea went with us, bringing us to the house of Nason of Cyprus, an early disciple with whom we should lodge. So once they have this conversation, don't go. This is what's going to happen. Paul says, "What are you worried about? Right?
Okay.
I know what's going to happen. I'm good. It's all good." And then it's almost like, I feel like this is one of those things where people pray and they go, okay, we know what we want, but we know we're probably not going to get what we want, so just God's will, right? I feel like that's almost them saying, it's just God's will be done. And when you're praying and you're saying, God, we really want you to do something, but if you don't want to do it, then just God's will. I don't know if they're making it. There's part of that feels kind of excusey to me. But
I think they see Paul.
But maybe he's convinced them.
I mean, I think
Okay.
they see him and his faith and his strength, and that's the only logical choice. I think they see him being so confident.
You've
I mean,
convinced me.
I just because he has known this whole time, and it says before that other people have warned him, and now they have a prophet coming in, taking off Paul's belt. And then they see Paul still so faithful and so confident and okay with it. They're like, all right, this is how it's supposed to be. They had to, and I think they just see Paul being the right servant.
I wonder if he gave him his belt back.
Well, he was bound with it, so he already had it.
No, he bound himself with it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Who owns the belt? Didn't say where's it.
So he took. I bet he gave him his
Yeah,
belt
sure.
back. I mean,
Okay.
he told him what he needed to say, and then he gave him his belt back. But here's the thing. I mean, that certainly God was sending messengers to Paul, and this guy. I mean, it's a very dramatic way of saying it, but certainly I believe God told him to say it dramatically too. Taking somebody's belt, tying yourself up, and said, "This is what's going to happen to you." Oh, that you can't mistake that message. And that's, Paul has absolute clarity here.
Mm-hmm.
So they get there. And now here we go in this kind of a next stage kind of thing. So we're in Jerusalem, and we're going to start with verse number 17. Dana, would you go ahead and get us to verse number 26, please?
Mm-hmm. And when he had come to Jerusalem, the brethren received us gladly. On the following day, Paul went in with us to James, and all the elders were present. When he had greeted them, he told in detail those things which God had done among the Gentiles through his ministry. And when they heard it, they glorified the Lord. And they said to him, "You see, brother, how many myriads of Jews there are who have believed, and they are all zealous for the law. But they have been informed about you that you teach all the Jews who are among the Gentiles to forsake Moses, saying that they ought not to circumcise their children, nor to walk according to the customs. What then? The assembly must certainly meet, for they will hear that you have come. Therefore do what we tell you. We have 4 men who have taken a vow. Take them and be purified with them, and pay their expenses, so that they may shave their heads, and that all may know that those things of which they were informed concerning you are nothing, but that you yourself also walk orderly and keep the law. But concerning the Gentiles who believe, we have written and decided that they should observe no such thing, except that they should keep themselves from things offered to idols, from blood, from things strangled, and from sexual immorality." Then Paul took the men, and the next day, having them purified with them, entered the temple to announce the expiration of the days of purification, at which time an offering should be made for each one of them.
All right, so what we're looking at here is most likely was referred to as a Nazarite vow. It's kind of the same thing that Samson, if you're familiar with his story, in the Old Testament lived under, or at least similar.
Right, because his was the opposite.
So, and, well, I mean, no, you actually would shave your head at the end of a Nazarite vow. So, so he just kind of never got to that phase. So, but here's the thing. Again, I'm just going to play, I don't know, I'm going to be that guy today. Is this really necessary? I mean, they comes in and people are going, okay, this is the rumor that have spread. Let's address this. And let's show them that they're wrong about all of this. So you do this just to set this example that you're... And there's nothing necessarily wrong with what they're doing here, I guess. But it strikes me as kind of unnecessary. Because what they're doing is they're kind of responding to the rumors and the speculation and trying to clear Paul's reputation amongst those who say, well, you've got to follow the Jewish law and he's disrupting everything. And what's going to end up happening is he's going to get arrested when he does this, but we'll get there. When in fact, when they point out, we've sent this letter out that says these are the things you've got to do, abstain from what's sacrificed to idols' blood, from strangled stuff, from sexual immorality, and we talked about that in a previous broadcast. If that's really all that's necessary, why not just let Paul keep being Paul?
Well, because it says, but concerning the Gentiles, we've written and decided that they should observe no such thing. And Paul goes along with this. He doesn't,
Right.
You know that Paul's not afraid to speak up if he thinks that something is amiss. So, the fact that he goes along with it.
Oh yeah, and I'm not saying that it's wrong. I'm just saying that it seems unnecessary. It can be permissible, but not beneficial. And I don't know that I see a whole lot of benefit here to this. What are your thoughts, Sheila? You look like you're pondering something deep here.
It's hard to, I guess it's easy being in it, but it's hard looking back at it. There's this guy coming to Jerusalem that shouldn't have been here for like however long he's been traveling. I don't even remember how long it's been. They finally get here, he's received, and all they can do is talk about is the rules. It's just hard for me. I mean, here God is doing crazy stuff, but maybe that's because even in all the crazy, some things still need to be hashed out. Some people still need to know, what do we do now?
Because, I mean, and if we go back and look in verse 21, here's the big issue that they have, that people are saying he's teaching them not to forsake Moses, to not circumcise their children or to walk according to the customs. It really has to do with holding on to tradition still. I mean, this is still something that is very, very much, people are still having a difficult time comprehending that salvation comes by grace through faith alone, and that you don't have to do these things in order to be saved. They get that for the Gentiles. Don't do this. This is how you should live. But for the Jews, well, we're God's chosen people, and so when Jesus came and sacrificed for us, I don't think that full understanding for a lot of people, not necessarily for the disciples or the apostles here, but for a lot of new or young Christians in the Jewish community, get that it's not. Your salvation isn't based on your obedience to the Mosaic law. Your salvation isn't based on whether you're circumcised. Your salvation isn't according to customs, right? You don't have to follow these traditions anymore. I think there's, to a certain degree, a worry over the maintenance of national identity, when what Christ has done is He's created a new identity for us all. We're no longer Jews and Gentiles. We're just God's children. We're Christians. We're believers. And we're still very much in the transitional phase for that.
Well, I think Paul addresses later on in one of his epistles where his heart is on this matter. In Romans, when he talks about, that chapter about the weaker brother, and how if my eating meat causes my brother to stumble, I'll never eat meat again. He was willing to forego that freedom to help with fellow Christians walk with Christ. Something that they saw, this caused problems for these young Christians.
Right.
And so he did this because he sees, he is the stronger of these brothers, and he is going to not do anything that is going to cause them to stumble in their walk with Christ and in their discipleship.
I think we see the exact same thing, just worded a little bit differently today. They say, why, they say, now we hear that they don't have to follow the rules. But today we hear, I'm clean, there are no rules. I think we hear the same thing, just on the other spectrum.
Opposite end.
I mean, really, they're like, hey, we got these rules, we need to be doing this. And then today we also hear those who say, because they're like, look at the many that believe, and they're zealous for the laws. And today we have many that believe that try to be free from all of it. And, we have the different ends of that spectrum, but it's not even about, and he brings it back, and he's like, well, he's going to say, and he lives what he speaks, but that we have that concern. What about they're not following my laws, or I don't have any laws, kind of.
Right. And I think ultimately, and I want to hold off on his arrest till next week, because we just don't have enough time to cover it. But I think ultimately what happens here is the concern is about what other people are doing, when it should be about where I'm at, right? What does it matter what Paul is teaching and what Paul is doing, especially if you're a believer, right? He's leading people to Jesus, and if we have some disagreements about certain elements of that, that's okay as long as he's not contradicting the essentials of the faith, which clearly he wasn't. This is not a dispute with other believers, though. This is a dispute with the Jews, not people who are following Christ at all, but people who claim that he's tearing down Judaism. And so what happens then here is exactly what complaints they raised against Christ. It is that the message that he's sharing, it counteracts what they felt like was an essential part of their national identity, that we've been chosen, we do it this way, and this is us. But when Jesus comes in and says, look, I'm going to offer salvation, I'm going to offer redemption, and it's not about sacrifice, it's not about law, it's about grace, it's about mercy, it's about love. For Jesus, it was very much, a lot of the leaders rejected him because they felt like that was tearing down their influence and their power structure. But for Paul, what they see is the spread of Christianity going across all the world. And they see Paul as one of the people most directly responsible for that, and they go, we're losing it, right? It's going out of our control. It's this guy is the one to blame. He's not telling them to forsake Moses. He's not telling people to abandon the truths of the Old Testament. He's telling them that God has fulfilled his promises, and he's fulfilled them in Jesus Christ, and it demands change, and they don't want that. So many people are content with where they're at that they reject the message of change that Paul is bringing, and that change comes through Christ. People still struggle with that because it's not about me working my way to get to heaven. It's not about me walking in obedience to maintain my status in heaven. My actions, my life, the changes that take place are a result of my faith, not the cause of it. They're a result of me being a different person. I walk differently because I was dead and now I'm alive, right? A resurrected man walks very differently than a dead one because dead people don't do anything. But when I'm alive, suddenly I walk with new life. I walk with new vigor because I've been changed. And what you have here are you have people who think they're alive, but they're dead. And they're condemning the one who's bringing the message of life. Right? We struggle with that today in the world that we live in. Any final thoughts to close us out today here in verse 26?
Well, I kind of have too. I mean, first of all, I like kind of what you said about the whole, a resurrected person walks differently than, a dead one. Because, I mean, that's basically how Paul's able to do all that he's doing. Because Paul's been resurrected and he's been saved. And is, they kind of said at church last week, if you've been resurrected, what's the worst they can do? Kill you again? I mean, what can hold you back there? And then the second thing is, like, we do kind of see this today. Like, people are still afraid of change. Because, I mean, when I read the whole, how he shaved his head and how he did all that, I kind of thought of it as, like, if you go to another country, let's say, China, for example, where Christianity's banned, you're going to act in a different way, you're going to follow their customs, do some of the same things they do, because, I don't know about y'all, but usually, like, they do things like you leave a little bit of food in your bowl, and we don't do that here in America, but it's respectful.
It'd be a struggle for you, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would. But it's respectful to them, so he's not really doing it as, it's just people are still afraid of the change that Christianity brings in people, because you go somewhere like China, if you get caught, they'll kill you.
So
it's like,
the point that you're making here, and I think practical application, really does give, I think, the best reasoning for why Paul does what he does here. It's not because he has to follow the customs. It's not because he has to take this vow, but he is willing to do whatever is necessary to make a connection with, as long as what he's doing doesn't contradict his relationship with Christ. So if following through with this Nazarite vow, or whichever vow this happens to be, is a way to give him the opportunity and a voice to speak into the lives of the Jews, if they'll hear him better, he's willing to do that. If going, there's this great concept, and I think there's a book called Meeting Needs, Sharing Christ, and it's about finding those touch points where you can meet the need that someone feels in order to gain access to meeting the true need that they have, which is a need for relationship with Christ. These Jews needed to know that this guy wasn't tearing down their traditions, that he wasn't destroying it. And Paul was willing to sacrifice the time, the comfort, the hair that it would take to do these things in order to have an inroad here, to gain the opportunity to share the gospel. We should open our eyes and ask God to open our eyes to see where are there places in our lives where we have the opportunity to do something for someone or to get engaged with someone for the purpose of not doing that, but for the purpose that will create an opportunity, a door that we can walk through to share the faith with them. Ken, you look like you were going to say something there. Did I walk over your thought?
Sitting and learning and
okay.
I'm just yeah.
I haven't heard a lot of Kenisms today, so I didn't want to step on yours. Any other thoughts here? We'll finish it out and come back to 27 next week. All right, JoJo, you opened us up, and you opened us up in prayer. So I'm gonna put your mom on the spot and see if
There
she'll
you go.
close us out in prayer today.
God, we want to thank you for today, Lord, but we do want to ask, help us not to be afraid of change. Help us to not be the catalyst of change. Help us not to be afraid to go wherever you would have us to go and do what you would have us to do. God, help us to look to you so that we can see, that we can know, and that we're ready, God, when the time is ready. God, we just pray that those who may be looking on the outside and saying, hey, that's not the way I know, or I don't understand. Help them to reach out today, God. Help them to reach out to those they know that do. All these elders were looking to Paul for answers. God, if we've got somebody in our lives that we know walks in truth, help us to look to them for answers. Help us to seek you and be open for change and for love. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Before we go, I want to just point out, if you guys get an opportunity, do you remember what the name of the team was from North Greenville College that was at Element this morning? Anybody remember what the name of the
The
actual
Life
team?
Ministries
The
team,
Life
Life Answers.
Life Answers. The Life. Thank you. The Life Answers team from North Greenville College was at Element this morning, and it was just an amazing opportunity to hear some very, very simple, very powerful defenses to some of the questions, or answers to some of the questions that a lot of people have about. I believe we're going to be launching that on our website, or they may be broadcasting it right now through Facebook Live. So check out Element's site. Look for the there, and take a chance to listen to that. It's 30-45 minutes. They answer at least 7 different questions that are commonly asked about the faith. Amazing. If you get an opportunity to check it out, they've got some really great resources there as well. So I just want to point that out. If you have not yet plugged into a church and like to get plugged into one, we'd love to help you do that. If there's not one, we'd like to help you start one. If you've never made a decision to follow Christ, we'd love to help you do that. It's as simple as accepting Him as your Lord and believing that He died and rose from the dead for you. And we'd love to pray that prayer with you, or help you find someone that could be a part of helping you grow in your relationship with Christ. We thank you so much for joining us. We'll come back to Acts in verse number 27 here next week. And until then, we'll see you next time on ElementYou.